Hello, I'm Edward Viljoen, and this is From the Center, where we get to talk to regular people like you and me who are on a spiritual path to discover how being on a spiritual path has contributed to the way they navigate through life. Behind the camera today is Keith Eggel, and you can contact him for your video recording needs with the information that is at the bottom of the screen. In the studio with me today is somebody that I've known for a very long time. Welcome, Debbie Butterfield.
Hello, Edward.
How long have you and I known each other?
Well, I've been coming here since about 2000. So shortly after that, we went on the trip to Greece, and I got to know you there.
Oh, you reminded me. We went on a trip to Greece together. I keep on
Yes.
forgetting that because it was such an impactful journey together that I
Right.
think sometimes I want to just compartmentalize it. We were there during September 11th,
Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
and now it's all coming
Yes.
back to me.
Yes.
What
And-
happened?
Well, we were on the island of Patmos, and we started seeing or hearing stories from the people there about planes flying into the Twin Towers, and it was kind of surreal. And when we got back to the cruise ship, we were seeing CNN in Greek and watching the towers fall, and couldn't understand what they were saying. All we had was the images. The only words I could understand were the names of the cities. And so we were hearing the departure cities and the cities that were hit. So it sounded, incredibly disastrous. But we didn't know.
And I remember that the group that was visiting the grotto when we were on Patmos were up inside the place where St. John received the revelation at the
Yes.
moment when you received the news. And I think our group led the people in prayer. I was downstairs waiting for everybody. Is that correct?
It is. It was amazing because the two people who started the praying and singing had a daughter in New York. So it was just amazing that they had the presence of mind to immediately go to prayer, to immediately pull the group together, to be in community, and in all of the unknowing of what was going on.
That's reminding me too that there were all kinds of people who had family members that they couldn't reach because we were out in the ocean, and there was one gentleman who had a satellite phone, I think, and he
Yeah.
was passing it around in there. And that's the thing I remember the most, not only among the travelers together, but the Greek people, how they treated us.
Yes.
I remember people just stopping us in the street and saying in their broken English, "I'm sorry," and there was tremendous goodwill and support towards Americans in those days.
Yes. And the thing that struck me was we were facing this for the first time, and we were in a country that had been so torn by war, and that this was something they had lived with for years, centuries perhaps, and it was so new to us. And they were very kind,
Yeah.
very kind.
And we got stuck there. We were stranded there because there was no planes coming in to take us out.
Right.
And so we just we got to hang around in Athens
Yes.
and did our best to keep up with the news and maintain a high view of what was going on, even though many of us were very traumatized by not being able to be with our families.
Yes.
Yeah, and trying not to feel selfishly focused when there was so much more trauma at home.
Yes.
It was a very powerful time.
It was.
Really put our spirituality to the test, because those are the times when it makes the difference. Is your spirituality helping you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And community. I mean, being there with the community was key for me because I was new to the philosophy. I had not been going to church regularly prior to that. And so to be surrounded by people who were steeped in the faith made a huge difference for me.
What does it mean to you to be a spiritual person?
To be a spiritual person is to know that at all times that everything is unfolding in divine perfection, and to have faith that there is a power for good and that it is working in my life and that I can tap into that, and to keep that focus.
Because
is
we don't
spiritual.
always keep that focus, do we?
We don't, and it doesn't always look that way
Yeah.
in our day-to-day lives.
You were sharing with me earlier that there have been a few times when you've been sorely tested in that faith, like you've had some major career shifts.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. I've had a lot of disappointments in my career, and prior to coming into this philosophy, I was very much in the story of what was happening. And through the teaching here and the classes here, I was able to pull back and look at the overall theme that was unfolding in my life. And what I saw was that I was in the wrong place, that I was really being called to something different. And I had my idea of what my life was supposed to be and what my career was supposed to be. And when I let that go and just looked at where life was trying to take me and what was trying to unfold in my life, it opened up so many doors and opportunities, things I could not have come up with on my own.
And that moment when you realize I'm not in the right place, isn't that a bit disorienting and frightening?
It's shocking.
Yeah.
It's very shocking. I remember the day because it was, I was listening to my thoughts, and I heard this thought: every time I try to make it work here, it just gets worse.
Oh, and when you
Every
believe
effort.
a thought like that, it's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Well, I stopped and I thought, is that true? Is that true? Does it always get worse when I try? And as I reflected, it seemed like it did. And I remember thinking, what is the universe trying to tell me? Maybe I'm in the wrong place. Yeah. And I started exploring that and seeing, where is life saying yes to me? Where are the doors opening, as opposed to running into brick walls?
Well, something did open for you in the area of creativity, right?
Yes.
Which is typically
Yes.
a place where people doubt themselves.
Yes.
Did you go through that?
I did. I still do. And I just trust that I'm following the flow of my life, and that the doors just keep opening, and I'm enjoying it, I'm loving it, and it feels right.
What
It
are
really
you
feels right.
doing now?
I'm exploring art, and I've started doing mosaics with washi paper and framing them and selling them. I go to art and wine festivals. I do open studio events. I'm, in a store right now. I'm just sort of seeing where life is saying yes, and how I just step forward and it seems to meet me.
Well, I remember the first time you packed up all of your stuff and went to, was it an art show somewhere, and just the surprise you had that you were in this.
Yes.
It was almost unbelievable, but
was.
here it was in a completely different environment.
Yes. Yes, I went to the Walnut Creek Art and Wine Fair, and I'm sitting there in my tent surrounded by my art. I purchased everything that was there, the tent, the tables, every step I took, but I never saw myself actually sitting there until I was sitting there thinking, wow, I really did this.
Yeah.
I really did this.
And if you could go back to being in the space of that person who was realizing I'm not in the right place, what would you tell her, knowing what you know now?
Trust that life will lead you. Yeah. One of the things I heard, and I mean, it's beautiful when you're in community and you hear these little gems, was that you will never plan an inspired life. It is a moment-by-moment journey, and you just step up and meet it.
Yeah. And
to just trust that what was coming was greater than anything I could imagine.
Yeah. Because when you're in the doubt phase, it seems such a distant land to hear that message, trust.
Yes.
But then when we do hear it from somebody who's traveled and can turn around and say, no, it's a valid idea, it's so encouraging. There's so much faith, like you said, from being in a spiritual community. So I see it as really important for us to tell our story of how we went through the valley of the shadow and got through it.
Yes.
What were some of the other obstacles that you met along the way?
Well, we've had a lot of illness in my family, and we lost my mother's generation, the last of my mother's generation, in a very short period of time.
Yes.
And I was the power of attorney for medical care for them, all three of them. And, my art really was a salvation during that time, because I turned to it. But also, just seeing God in the situation, seeing Spirit in the situation. There were some key moments where it could have gone one way or the other, and I really needed to get myself out of the way and just let life flow. There's a natural flow to life, and just trust that.
Yeah. Because with the passing of a parent, it's so unique and individual, and there's no manual for how to understand it. So we do really have to bring ourselves to it open to how life is unfolding at any moment.
Yeah.
And doubt can show up there too.
Mm-hmm.
What form did yours come in?
Oh, My form of doubt, I think it was more fear because it was such unknown territory to, because my father had already passed,
Yeah.
to be orphaned in midlife and to then lose my aunt and uncle as well. I had no roadmap for navigating without a family.
Yes.
And coming here, being surrounded by community, really helped keep me going.
Was there any particular practice you used to keep yourself floating during that period?
Journaling, a lot of journaling, meditation. I had a group of people I met with for prayer that kept me supported. I prayed, meditated. General spiritual practices that I had in place at the time. I was so grateful to have been in this community for as long as I was when those events happened.
Yeah, that really touches me because I see how these are such ordinary practices that
Yes.
I could minimize them and I
Yes.
could not do them. But because I do them, journaling is powerful,
Yes.
inquiry is powerful, praying with people. I could easily minimize them, say I don't need them now, but then when life shifts in those uncomfortable ways, it's such a wonderful comfort to know that I can turn to them.
Yes. I remember something I heard about repetitive prayer in that the repeating of a prayer is not to convince God. It's to drop an anchor so deep within yourself that during those times of challenge, it's right there. And having been here for about 10 years when my mother got sick, it was there. It was solid, and it really got me through.
Yeah.
I could see God in the situation.
And the period afterwards, the mourning period, anything you can reflect on how that was?
You know, I think understanding that it is a mourning period and trusting it and knowing that there's wisdom in every stage. You know, I had a lot of anger that came up and I trusted it. I thought, okay, now I'm angry and I'm going to be with the anger and just trusting that it's going to move through you and that there's a wisdom to it. You know, being well versed in that helped and just going with it.
Well, sometimes those responses are surprising to us. We
Yes.
didn't know that was coming.
Yes.
And then if you aren't well versed in it and you haven't had the message that it's possible, you can make wrong conclusions about your life. You can start to say, well, there's something wrong with me that I'm feeling this way or that way. But in the meantime, like you said, there's a wisdom in it. It's almost as if your soul is working out transactions to bring us back into balance. And if you were to give some advice or encouragement to anybody who's losing a parent now, what would you say to them?
I would focus on being grateful for everything you had with that parent. There were a lot of difficult times in the last years of my mother's life, but there were a lot of beautiful times. And I have a choice whether I focus on the painful memories or whether I focus on the rich, loving memories. And trust that God is right there. Death is not the enemy. That I really view death as a birth into whatever is next. And for my mom, I certainly saw that.
What would you say has been the most significant change that has taken place in you as a being over these 10 years of journeying on a spiritual path?
I think the shift from looking for blaming myself, blaming others when things don't go the way I think they should, to trusting that it's all in divine perfection. And that comes from a lot of reflection. I mean, I can honestly say I'm grateful at this point for every job I didn't get, for every relationship that didn't work out, for every, perfect situation that fell through. I see where I am today. I'm very happy. Life is full. And had any one of those situations that I thought should work out but didn't, had they worked out, things would be very different. So
That's something.
I trust at this point. I've had enough experience seeing my answered prayers not come the way I wanted them.
Debbie, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I'm Edward Viljoen, and this is from the Center, and I'm so glad you joined us, and I look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Goodbye.